Now tell me, where is your master? Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?
I will start my operations here and pull the rebels apart piece by piece.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new Mandalorian Season 2 video for Ahsoka Tano versus Grand Admiral Thrawn, as they teased during Episode 5. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. They teased this huge fight in the future between Ahsoka and Thrawn. They also included some clever visual Easter eggs for Thrawn and other places during the episode you may have spotted. So we'll break it all down and explain what it means for the future of the Mandalorian series and the potential Ahsoka Tano spin-off series that's been rumored all year. I know for a long time fans have always wanted them to do an heir to the Empire Thrawn-style trilogy in the movies. It looks like they might actually be bringing that into the live-action Disney Plus series though. But careful for spoilers for everything that happened during Episode 5 and on The Mandalorian so far if you haven't seen any of the episodes. Just starting at the beginning here. Number 10, Ahsoka Tano said that during the episode, she was after information that the magistrate named Morgan Elsbeth had. A lot of you also may have noticed, too, that she's Bruce Lee's goddaughter in a stunt person in real life, so that's how they were able to do such a cool fight scene with that Mandalorian Beskar spear. But it wasn't until that final scene after the big fight that we actually learned that it's the location of Grand Admiral Thrawn in the 7th Fleet that Ahsoka is after. Yes, I also think that this has something to do with the whereabouts of Ezra Bridger, because the last time we saw all these characters, Ahsoka Tano, Ezra Bridger, and Thrawn, was during the Star Wars Rebels finale. So I will talk more about Ezra later in this video too, since it seems like most of the major animated characters that Dave Filoni either created or helped bring back into the canon are coming to the live-action Mandalorian series and other Disney Plus series in the future. Number 9, Grand Admiral Thrawn is probably one of the few major fan-favorite characters who are big enough to be a galactic-level threat on par with Emperor Palpatine or Darth Vader, just to make comparisons to the Star Wars movies. So it feels like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are going to use him as part of their endgame for the Mandalorian series. Make all the Avengers Endgame jokes you want. We're in the endgame now. And it also seems like they're setting up a new cinematic universe with these live-action Disney Plus series that'll be interconnected, like a potential Ahsoka spin-off series that covers a lot of what's happening with Grand Admiral Thrawn. It's sort of like them doing what the MCU is doing with their Disney Plus Marvel series and all the big Marvel Phase 4 and Marvel Phase 5 movies, but just in the Star Wars universe. Like I said, wouldn't it be amazing if they did an Heir to the Empire style Thrawn trilogy, but now it seems like they're doing it in the Disney Plus series, so to speak, just slowly introducing bits of Legends canon back into the official canon. But number 8, even before Ahsoka mentions Thrawn's name, some of you may have spotted some of the visual Easter eggs referencing him in the background during the episode. So if you zoom and enhance on the HK-87 assassin droids, yes, I know, big Knights of the Old Republic Easter egg for HK-47, you look at their heads, and they actually bear the insignia of Thrawn's 7th Fleet. Morgan Elsbeth had supposedly been working for Thrawn, helping plunder worlds to gain the resources to build the Empire's Starfleet ever since Revenge of the Sith, so it makes sense that all of her weapons and her gear comes from Thrawn's 7th Fleet. Number 7. How is Grand Admiral Thrawn connected to Moff Gideon and what's going on in the galaxy during the events of the Mandalorian series? Because this is the first we're actually hearing of him. There was actually something interesting, though, that Giancarlo Esposito said in an interview after The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4. That was the episode where we finally saw Moff Gideon for the first time during Season 2, and we got the reveal of his experiments in cloning, more answers about what he's doing with midichlorians and Grogu's blood, using that to create his new Dark Troopers, also big Dark Forces video game Easter egg. But during his interview, he talks about higher powers during the galaxy, so I'm going to screen cap this and just read what he says. He says, when the people flow out of control and there are all these different Moffs who've been assigned to different areas to be wardens of, isn't there one person or someone that may have guidance over all of them? Then he said that they'll answer all those questions during Season 2. He talks about the Dark Troopers like they're super soldiers, using them to sort of instill order around the galaxy, so he's just hyping up them rolling them out later this year. Then he raises another really interesting question saying, also, why does Moff Gideon know everything, what's going on everywhere? He has some kind of incredible intelligence source. So number 6, given all this information and big reveals during Episode 5 and so far on The Mandalorian, clearly I think the incredible source of information that Giancarlo Esposito is talking about and this mysterious person who has guidance over all the Moffs is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Technically, a Moff is a civilian governor of a sector of space controlling many systems, and a Grand Admiral is a military commander of an entire fleet of the Empire. The 7th Fleet is Thrawn's fleet. The only reason right now that Thrawn would technically outrank Moff Gideon if they're adhering to the rules of the Empire, long live the Empire as he said earlier, which they're trying to bring back, is because Moff Gideon isn't a Grand Moff, and even if he were a Grand Moff, he and Thrawn would be more like equals in terms of authority within the Empire, the way things were set up originally. But if you haven't read a lot of the Thrawn canon before or seen any of the Rebels, the way he's sort of pitched within the Star Wars universe is that he's the best, most intelligent military commander that the galaxy has ever seen. The way he's expressed, especially during Star Wars Rebels, was as a very Sherlockian villain, like a Moriarty to a Sherlock. And for those of you that didn't actually watch the Rebels series, he was actually voiced by Lars Mikkelsen. He's Mads Mikkelsen's brother, but he also played a villain during Sherlock Season 3 with Benedict Cumberbatch. I know everyone would love to see Benedict Cumberbatch play live-action Thrawn, but they could actually just paint Lars Mikkelsen blue if they're having everyone play the animated versions of their characters in live action. Ahsoka Tano is kind of the exception to that so far because Rosario Dawson is playing the live-action version of her and Ashley Eckstein did the animated version, but you have Katie Sackhoff playing animated Bo-Katan, then playing live-action Bo-Katan, so the precedent is there for Lars Mikkelsen to come and play live-action Thrawn on the Mandalorian series. Number 5. Originally, it was actually Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker himself, that brought Thrawn into the Empire, but it was still when he was Anakin Skywalker before he became Darth Vader during the Clone Wars. Thrawn had actually grown up as a member of the Chiss Ascendancy Royal Navy over here in this part of the unknown regions that his race controls. It's a pretty big area of space, even though it looks kind of small on the map here. After learning about Palpatine and witnessing the fall of the Republic after Order 66, he sort of decided that in the big regime change, the best way to help his people, the Chiss, survive in this new political regime was from the inside. So he went to the Emperor and offered his race's knowledge of the unknown regions, which the Emperor desperately wanted. But because Thrawn was so much better than all the other military commanders, he quickly rose to the rank of Grand Admiral. So because he was such a badass, a lot of you were confused why it seemed like he was beaten so easily by the Rebels in the Rebels finale. Well, there are some theories about that. So number 4, if you didn't read all the Thrawn stories, he actually found out that the Emperor was planning on killing him after he took care of the Rebels in his final mission, assuming that he was going to take the Rebel fleet apart piece by piece, as he said during Rebels. So there's some theories that he lost that battle during the Rebels finale on purpose with the intent to dip out of the galaxy for a little while into the unknown regions, regardless of the outcome of the battle, to sit out the events of the original trilogy of movies until he could gather more resources and develop a plan to either outfox Emperor Palpatine or to get him to chill on that kill order. Regardless, in the Rebels finale, the last we saw of him and Ezra Bridger were that Ezra's space whales, which had the ability to navigate hyperspace naturally, took Thrawn's 7th Fleet deep into the unknown regions where they couldn't threaten the rebellion anymore, all right before the events of Star Wars A New Hope. All we know now is that at some point, Ahsoka came back after looking for Ezra in the unknown regions with Sabine Wren, and probably around the same time, Thrawn found his way back to the Outer Rim territories. But just based on the way they're hyping him up, it seems more likely that Thrawn found his way back before the events of Return of the Jedi, the Battle of Endor, the Battle of Jakku, and just decided to wait in the Outer Rim, hidden, so that the Emperor and the remainder of the old Empire could die off, which he was not a big fan of, and he could then swoop in and recreate a new empire as he saw fit. One that would benefit his people, the Chiss, much more than the previous regime. Remember, Thrawn is not loyal to the Emperor or the Empire. He's loyal first to his people, the Chiss. So everything he does is for their benefit, ultimately, even though he seems like he's this big villain inside the Empire. Had the Emperor wound up killing Thrawn as he planned, his people, the Chiss, would have suffered the same fate as the Mandalorians did eventually, like thinking about the great Mandalorian purge in Moff Gideon. So number 3, connections to Moff Gideon. We know he came up in the Imperial Security Bureau before he was a Moff. They're the branch of the Empire that's tasked with information gathering and secret keeping, so Moff Gideon would have had access to all of Palpatine's secrets and resources hidden all over the galaxy. Now, we don't know whether or not Thrawn played a role in the original Mandalorian purge. Mostly it seems like that's a Moff Gideon thing, because every time Bo-Katan talks about the purge and taking back the planet Mandalore in the Darksaber, she keeps talking about Moff Gideon. And it also kind of seems like that happened during the events of the original trilogy, so it's more likely that Emperor Palpatine is behind the Mandalorian purge when he was still around. Regardless though, in this new Mandalorian series, in this part of the timeline, Moff Gideon is more like the Darth Vader to Thrawn's Emperor. So once they do come around to the new Battle for Mandalore, whatever the final season of the Mandalorian series winds up being, that's sort of the end game for the show, is them retaking the planet Mandalore. Grand Admiral Thrawn will be a big part of that, whether or not he played a role in their original downfall in the Purge. So number 2, my early prediction is that we'll get another Thrawn teaser in the Mandalorian Season 2 finale. Either we'll just see a shot of the 7th Fleet with his Star Destroyer Chimera, and maybe small chance that they've already cast an actor for a short cameo scene and we'll actually see him show up on screen for a few seconds in the finale, and then he'll just show up more on the potential Ahsoka spin-off series. Because I really do feel like Episode 5 was meant to be a backdoor pilot for the Ahsoka series. It's really cool as a fan service episode and pushing the Mandalorian series plot forward, but there's just so many things that they set up, it feels like a lot of that's going to be addressed on a separate TV show. In number 1, as for Ezra Bridger, there have been all kinds of actors teasing fans with live-action Ezra all year. But that being said, because you can't do one without the other, Thrawn can't come back and Ahsoka can't come back after Rebels without Ezra also coming back, I think they'll introduce the new live-action Ezra either on the Mandalorian series along with Sabine Wren, or at least on the Ahsoka series. And the Mandalorian series is all about Mandalorians. It's right there in the title, and Sabine Wren is a Mandalorian by birth from House Wren, and she's the one who gave Bo-Katan the Darksaber in the first place, so of course they have to introduce her to the live-action at some point. But I also think the Ezra Bridger character will be connected to the Jedi that Ahsoka Tano spoke of when she was telling Mando to take Grogu to the Jedi Temple on Tython. I will do a separate video about that, about all the Jedi and Sith characters from canon and from Legends that they might bring back through that storyline. But post all your theories in the comments below. Do you think that Moff Gideon has been working for Grand Admiral Thrawn this whole time, and when do you think we'll actually see Thrawn on screen for the first time? Congratulations, Juan Batista, you're the giveaway winner from my last big Star Wars video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Everyone click here for my full Mandalorian Season 2 Episode 5 Ahsoka video, and click here to learn about Grogu's full backstory in Jedi history and how he fits into the Star Wars movies. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. This is the way.